What do you mean you told her to leave because she was too out of shape? Franklin Moore stood frozen in his office. His assistant looked nervous. That's what the email said. A woman came in for a free trial at the Westwood location. One of the trainers told her she wasn't ready for that kind of gym and suggested she try something easier. Franklin rubbed his face, trying to keep his voice calm. Did she say which trainer? No name. Just said it was a guy. Tall, beard, maybe early 30s. Franklin's jaw clenched. He'd bought the gym chain 7 years ago, when it had just 4 locations. Now there were 19. He'd built it with a clear mission: make fitness accessible to everyone, no matter their starting point. But lately, something felt off. Reviews were slipping. Complaints were piling up. He didn't want to rely on filtered reports anymore. I'm going in. His assistant blinked. To the Westwood gym? As a new member. No one there's seen me in person. I've never visited that location. It's all been Zoom calls and email. I'll grow out the beard, wear glasses, change my voice a little. No one will recognize me. You sure? That place has a reputation for being intense. Exactly why I need to see it with my own eyes. 3 weeks later, Franklin walked into the Westwood gym under the name Greg. His beard had filled in thick, his hair longer than usual. He wore a worn-out hoodie, gym shorts, and running shoes that looked older than they were. His wire-rimmed glasses finished the look. No Rolex. No corporate vibe. Just another out-of-shape guy trying to get fit. At the entrance, a young receptionist named Paige greeted him. Hey there. First time? Yeah. Signed up online. Month to month. She handed him a key tag. Welcome to the grind. We're a little intense here, but if you stick with it, you'll see results. Her tone was friendly. Franklin gave a small smile. Looking forward to it. The place looked modern, sleek machines, loud music, motivational posters on every wall. But the vibe was off. There was a coldness to it. People kept their heads down. No one helped each other. And the trainers, all jacked, tank-top-wearing men, barked at clients like drill sergeants. Franklin started with cardio. 5 minutes in, he noticed something that made his stomach twist. Near the squat racks, a woman in her 40s was trying to do goblet squats with a dumbbell. One of the trainers, a tall guy with a beard, leaned in close and said loud enough for Franklin to hear, "If you're still struggling with 20-pound weights, maybe this gym's not for you." The woman stared at the floor, cheeks red. "I'm trying." He laughed. "Trying isn't doing. This isn't a yoga studio, okay?" She put down the weight and walked away. Franklin's hands curled into fists. He watched the trainer turn to another client, young, fit, laughing, and high-five him. Franklin spent the next 2 hours observing. He saw another woman being told to cover up her stretch marks if she wanted to wear a crop top. He watched a teenage boy being laughed at by a trainer for failing his first bench press attempt. Every time, it was subtle enough to pass off as tough love. But Franklin knew better. That night, in his rented apartment 2 blocks away, Franklin sat on a folding chair at the little kitchen table. He stared at the wall for a while, then opened his laptop and pulled up the employee roster. The bearded trainer's name was Chad. Head trainer for that location. Been with the gym for 2 years. Franklin leaned back, heart heavy. He'd built a gym for everyone. This place wasn't that. Not anymore. Franklin stepped into the Westwood gym the next morning just after opening. The air was heavy with the scent of rubber mats and pre-workout powder. Music thumped low in the background. He wore the same hoodie and glasses, but today he kept his head up, scanning. He wasn't here to observe anymore, he needed to understand. He started by volunteering for one of the orientation circuits, which were supposed to help new members get familiar with the equipment. A trainer named Lex led it, a wiry guy with a buzz cut and sharp eyes who looked like he hadn't slept. "All right, Greg," Lex said, checking the clipboard. "You're the only one on the list for the 9 o'clock. Just me?" Franklin asked, expecting a group? Lex nodded. Yeah, no one else signed up. Happens a lot. People get scared off. Franklin stretched lightly. So what's the tour like? Lex shrugged. We'll hit the machines, I'll show you the mobility zones, then we'll get in a light circuit. Nothing crazy. You'll get the layout at least. As they moved through the gym, Franklin noticed several treadmills were out of order, red tags dangling from their handles. A woman in a staff tee was trying to mop a spill near the water fountain while simultaneously answering questions from a frustrated older man about his locker code. Lex saw Franklin glance over. That's Sasha. She does front desk and janitorial. They had to cut the night shift cleaning crew last month. Been a mess since. Franklin kept his tone casual. That why you look like you haven't slept in a week? Lex chuckled dryly. I close and open most days. We're short-staffed. Chad says it's temporary, but I've been picking up extra shifts for 6 weeks now. As they moved to the weight area, a young man with a deep scar across his cheek approached. Hey, Lex. You got a sec? Lex turned. What's up, Malik? This dude in the back is trying to deadlift 400 again. No spotter, and he's rounding his spine like crazy. I already told him once. Lex looked toward the rear of the gym. Chad said not to baby anyone unless they ask. Franklin caught the hesitation in Lex's eyes. He was tired. He knew better. But he didn't argue. Thanks, Lex said to Malik, and returned to show Franklin how to adjust the leg press. By late morning, Franklin had seen enough to realize this wasn't just a culture problem, it was structural. The staff was stretched thin. Safety protocols were being ignored. And somewhere along the way, the gym's purpose had shifted from inclusivity to intimidation. He sat on a bench near the stretching area, pretending to check his phone. A woman in her mid-30s was doing slow lunges nearby, her form careful but shaky. A trainer with a clipboard, this one short, muscular, and bluntly direct, walked over. You're gonna hurt your knees doing it like that, he said without preamble. She looked startled. Oh, okay. I'm trying to keep my balance. He sighed. Then maybe stick to a bike. Or don't lunge at all until you stop wobbling. The woman looked down, clearly embarrassed. Franklin stood, walked over slowly. Hey, he said to the woman, keeping his voice low. You're doing great. Mind if I join you? She blinked, then gave a cautious nod. They lunged side by side in silence for a minute. Then she spoke. I used to go to a different gym. They shut down during the pandemic. This place. It's different. Franklin didn't push. What's your name? Angela. I'm Greg. She nodded. I thought maybe if I kept showing up, it'd feel less hostile. But it kind of just stays the same. He saw the way her fingers trembled when she adjusted her stance. Not from weakness, nerves. He didn't say anything more. Just kept lunging beside her until she finished her set and gave a small, grateful smile before walking off. That afternoon, Franklin lingered in the staff hallway, pretending to fill his water bottle just outside the break room. Inside, he heard voices. Corporate's not watching, someone said, unmistakably Chad's voice. They only care about the numbers. You think they care if someone gets their feelings hurt? Another voice, a woman's, answered. But if someone complains, let them. As long as they don't cancel their membership, they're just noise. And if they do cancel? We get more sign-ups from people who appreciate tough coaching anyway. Franklin stepped back quietly before they noticed him, stomach twisting. It wasn't just ignorance. It was deliberate. He returned 2 days later during the afternoon lull, when the gym was quietest. He headed straight to the front desk where Sasha was restocking towels behind the counter. Hey, Sasha, Franklin said. You always work solo like this? She looked up, surprised. Yeah. Just me from noon to 6 most days. Mornings are worse, though. That's when the rush hits. He leaned on the counter slightly. What do you do if someone needs help while you're cleaning or restocking? Hope they wait, she said with a tired laugh. or yell across the room. He looked around. The place was spotless, which made her situation even more impressive. You like working here? She paused. I like fitness. I like helping people. But some days. Her eyes flicked toward the weight floor. Some days I feel like I'm just cleaning up after people who think they're better than everyone else. Franklin nodded slowly. What if you had, say, 2 more people on shift with you? She blinked. That would be heaven. Later that evening, Franklin stayed late to attend a group boot camp session. It was run by Chad himself. The room was packed, maybe 20 people in a space meant for 15. Music blasted. Chad barked commands from the center, pacing like a drill instructor. Push harder! No excuses! A man in the back paused mid-burpee, gasping. Chad stormed over. You quitting already? You're not even sweating. My knee. Then modify. Or leave. Franklin stepped forward. Hey! He's clearly in pain. Chad turned, annoyed. This is a boot camp. Not a therapy session. You don't like it, there's the door. Franklin's voice cut through the music. Then maybe you should take it. Because I own this company. Silence fell. Chad's face drained of color. Franklin removed his glasses and stepped forward. My name is Franklin Moore. I started this business so people could become stronger at their pace, without shame. And what you've built here is the opposite of that. No one moved. The man with the knee issue looked stunned. Sasha, who'd just entered with a stack of towels, froze by the door. Lex stood at the edge of the workout area, mouth slightly open. Franklin turned to the group. The way you've been treated here? That ends now. He faced Chad again. You're done. Effective immediately. Clear out your things. Chad didn't argue. He left the room without a word. Franklin looked at the others. If you want to stay and finish the workout, you can. But no one's going to be yelled at. Not now. Not ever again. He turned to Lex. You're leading. Keep it safe. Keep it respectful. Lex nodded, still stunned. Franklin stepped outside and exhaled slowly. The night air was cool against his face. For the first time since walking into Westwood, he felt like he could breathe again. But the work was just beginning. 2 days after the reveal, Franklin returned to the Westwood gym, this time through the main entrance, wearing a plain black polo with the company logo. No disguise. No hesitation. He walked past the front desk where Sasha greeted him with a cautious nod, then straight into the break room, where Lex, Malik, and 2 other trainers were seated mid-meal. The room fell silent. You don't need to stand, Franklin said, motioning for them to sit. I'm here to talk, not to make a speech. Lex looked up. Are we getting shut down? Franklin shook his head. No. But we are getting overhauled. He leaned against the wall, arms crossed. I owe you all some clarity. What happened the other night wasn't a fluke. It was a result of me being too far removed from what this place had become. One of the trainers, a quiet guy with a sleeve tattoo and calloused hands, spoke up. You're not the first owner we've had. Most of them stay away. I'm not most of them, Franklin said. And I'm done staying away. He scanned the room. I need to know what's really going on here. Not just what's broken, but what's working. I'm rebuilding from the inside out. Malik set down his protein bar. You want honest answers? Only kind I'll listen to. Lex leaned forward. We're running too lean. We've got 4 trainers covering shifts meant for 6. Sasha's doing the job of 3 people. Programs that used to help beginners get started? Cut. We've been told to prioritize high-performing clients, people who already know what they're doing. Who told you that? Lex didn't hesitate. Chad. Said it came from upstairs. Said corporate only cared about before and afters, not progress shots. Franklin frowned. There were never instructions like that from my office. Well, he said it often enough that we all believed it. Franklin nodded slowly. Who else knew what was going on? The tattooed trainer shrugged. The assistant manager, Kyle. He's been here longer than any of us. Doesn't say much, but he always backed Chad. Franklin pushed off the wall. Where can I find him? Lex glanced at the clock. Should be in the office. He handles inventory on Thursdays. Franklin walked down the rear corridor and knocked once before stepping in. The office was cluttered, supplement boxes stacked in corners, papers in loose piles. Kyle sat behind the desk typing. He looked up, surprised. Didn't expect to see you here again so soon. Didn't plan to wait, Franklin said. You've been here a while. 5 years. And in that time, how often did you question the way things were being run? Kyle leaned back. I followed orders. Kept the place operating. That's the job, right? Depends on which orders, Franklin said. Were you aware Chad was turning away clients he deemed unfit? Kyle hesitated. He said it was about preserving the gym's brand. And you agreed with that? I didn't stop it, Kyle admitted, his tone flat. Franklin stepped closer. I read the incident report from 6 months ago. The one where a woman was told to leave during her first session. You filed it under client noncompliance. Kyle didn't respond. That wasn't a mistake, Franklin said. That was a cover. Kyle lowered his gaze. I can't keep anyone in a leadership role who allowed that kind of behavior to continue, Franklin said. You're being relieved of your duties. Effective immediately. Kyle stood, silent. He didn't argue. He packed his things, left his badge on the desk, and walked out without another word. Franklin returned to the gym floor. It was mid-afternoon, quiet but not empty. Angela, the woman from the lunch session, was working with a resistance band near the mirrors. This time, a younger trainer stood beside her, adjusting her posture gently, giving small, clear instructions. Franklin watched for a moment, then returned to the front desk. Sasha, he said, I'm bringing in people to help. But until then, your job is getting split. I'm assigning 2 part-time hires to handle cleaning and stocking. You'll stay at the front desk only. No more carrying the entire shift. Her eyes widened. For real? Not a favor, he said. A correction. She blinked rapidly and nodded. Thank you. He pulled out his phone and made a call to Jenna, his operations lead. We need a new interim manager at Westwood. Someone who understands client-first culture. Pull from the East Valley team, they've been consistent. Got it, Jenna said. How urgent? Today. An hour later, Franklin gathered the remaining team in the group training room. They stood in a loose semicircle, waiting. I'm not here to micromanage, he began. I'm here to rebuild. That means more staff, more structure, and more accountability. He looked at Lex. You're stepping into a lead trainer role. Temporary for now. But I want to see how you run things when you're not stretched thin. Lex stiffened. I've never managed a team. You've been doing it without the title for months. He turned to Malik. You're going to help redesign the intro program. We need something welcoming, scalable, and safe. Malik nodded slowly. I can do that. Franklin continued. Every team member will now receive bi-weekly coaching, not just about fitness, but communication. No more barking orders. No more shame-based motivation. That ends here. The tattooed trainer raised a hand. What happens if someone slips? Goes back to the old way? Franklin didn't hesitate. They're out. No warnings. He paused. If you're here just to flex for Instagram, this isn't your gym anymore. If you're here to help people change their lives, you'll have more support than you've ever had. No one spoke, but the silence felt different this time, like something had shifted. After the meeting, Franklin stayed behind, helping Sasha restock the fridge with water bottles and protein shakes. She worked quickly, efficiently, but with a lighter expression than before. You really meant all that? She asked. I meant every word. She closed the fridge. Then maybe this place has a shot. As evening fell, Franklin walked the floor, watching clients move through their routines. No yelling. No humiliation. Just effort, sweat, and quiet encouragement. There were still broken machines. Still too few staff. Still work ahead. But for the first time in a long time, the gym felt like a place where people belonged even if they were just starting out. 3 weeks later, Franklin stood in the back of the Westwood Gym's conference room, arms crossed, watching the team filter in. They looked different now, not in appearance, but in posture. Straighter backs, steadier eyes. The guarded tension that once clung to the staff had given way to something else. He waited until every chair was filled before stepping forward. "I told you this place would change," he said. "But change doesn't stick unless people invest in it." "You've done that." He motioned to the whiteboard behind him, where a list of names had been written under a new heading, Peer Mentor Program. "I'm not going to pretend everything's fixed. It isn't. We're still short 2 trainers, and the equipment order's delayed another week. But the culture shift? That's real. And that's because of how you've treated people." Lex, seated near the front, raised his hand. "Can I say something?" Franklin nodded. "I didn't think I could lead," he said, standing. "But after Malik and I rebuilt the new intro track, and I saw people actually coming back after the first week, I got it. It's not about being the strongest in the room. It's about making sure everyone feels like they belong in the room." Malik gave a quiet nod from his seat. A small ripple of applause followed. Franklin turned to Sasha, seated by the door. "How's front desk coverage?" She exhaled. "Way better. The 2 new hires are solid. Danny's already trained up on the POS system, and Trevor's taking initiative on floor checks. I finally had time to rewrite the onboarding script." "Good," Franklin said. "Because tomorrow, we're piloting a new welcome orientation. Everyone walks through the gym with a mentor, no exceptions. No more people showing up and walking out confused or judged." A few heads nodded. "What of the newer trainers?" Jay leaned forward. "What about weekend coverage?" "Right now, there's only 2 of us on Saturdays." "I know," Franklin said. "We're still interviewing. I'll be here personally this weekend to help close. Until we hire, I'm part of the rotation." That got a few surprised looks. "You're working floor shifts?" Jay asked. "I'm working wherever I'm needed. This isn't a drop-in fix," Franklin said. "This is how I stay connected." After the meeting, as the team dispersed, Franklin walked the perimeter of the gym. He passed the stretching zone where Angela was now leading a small mobility class, 6 participants, all following her slow movements with quiet focus. He hadn't asked her to start the class, she'd offered, and Malik had helped her build the routine. He spotted a familiar face near the free weights. It was the teenage boy who had once been laughed at for failing a bench press. He was back this time with a partner, both wearing matching gym tees. One of the trainers, a woman named Ren, was guiding their form, offering corrections without raising her voice. Franklin approached quietly. "How's it going?" he asked her. Ren looked up. "He's up 20 pounds on his lift, and showing up 3 times a week. Says he wants to become a trainer eventually." The teen flushed but didn't stop lifting. Franklin watched for a moment. "Keep building that. He'll remember how this place made him feel long after the numbers fade." He moved through the locker corridor to the back office, where a temporary desk had been set up for the new location manager, a woman named Elise, transferred from the East Valley branch. She was on a video call with operations, reviewing the feedback logs. She waved him in. 83% drop in complaints since week 1. "Most common comment now? Staff actually listens." Franklin nodded once. "That'll do." She ended the call and leaned back. "I'm not going to lie. First 2 days I thought this place was unsalvageable. But the team's different now. They trust each other. They earned it," Franklin said. "Not because I stepped in. Because they decided to stay, even when it was easier to leave." Elise folded her arms. What happens when you go back to the corporate office? I won't. Not fully. I'll rotate through every location over the next 6 months. 1 week at each. It's time I remember what we stand for, not from a boardroom, but from the floor. Elise nodded. They'll hold you to that. I'm counting on it. Later that evening, after the last session cleared out and the music dimmed, Franklin sat alone on a bench near the cardio zone. Westwood looked different at night now, not just quieter, but calmer. The tension that once clung to the air had lifted. There was still work ahead, there always would be, but the foundation had been reset. Lex passed by on his way out, holding a clipboard and sipping from a dented water bottle. You staying late? He asked. Franklin nodded. Making notes. Thinking about what comes next. Lex paused. You ever think about how close this place came to becoming something ugly? Like, permanently? Franklin looked around the space, the soft hum of machines powering down, the faint clatter of weights being racked properly, the low murmur of 2 clients chatting near the exit. Yeah, he said. Every day. Lex nodded once and headed out. Franklin sat a moment longer, then reached into his bag and pulled out a folded printout. It was the original mission statement he'd written 7 years ago, back when the gym was a single leased space with second-hand equipment. He read it silently, then slid it into the drawer of the front desk, just beneath the new onboarding materials. Not as a reminder. As a promise never to forget again.